I'll be able to hang in there.
What was the injury?
On my knee.
Hey guys, Justin here, and not to be too somber, but the season is over. This was one of the darkest regular season days that I've ever experienced as my time as a Packers fan. For context, the earliest game I remember watching is Packers-Cardinals in the 2009-2010 playoffs, and then bits and pieces of the 2010 regular season before the Super Bowl run. But let's talk about the actual game, starting with the offense. They scored 26 points against one of the top defenses in the league, so simply just looking at that would indicate a good performance. And I'm not going to say it wasn't. Jordan Love was slinging the ball in the first half. Josh Jacobs had a few nice runs, including his longest since 2023. If you told me that the Packers scored 26, I would have assumed they won. In fact, I told my family before the game, only one team's going to score more than 20, and that team will win. Unfortunately, I was completely wrong about that. The biggest issue, though, I have with the offense is their poor performance in the red zone. The Packers scored on all 4 drives in the first half, but they only entered the break with 16 points. They kicked 3 field goals. That just cannot happen. And the touchdown they did score came on a 3rd and goal from the 14-yard line and was a ridiculous catch from Jacobs. I think the catch probability was about 25%, which even seems high. So 3/4 of the time, the Packers end up kicking a field goal. Again, this cannot happen against these top teams. That is one of the main reasons to lose a playoff game. I mean, look at the 49ers wildcard game just 2 years ago. You need to score touchdowns. This team has too much talent and a supposed offensive genius at head coach to go 1 for 4 in the red zone. I don't care how great the opposing defense is. You need to score more than 1 touchdown in those 4 trips. Now, why did they not score touchdowns? On the second drive, they had a play that reached the 5-yard line but was called back due to an illegal man downfield penalty. A lot of people online blamed Rasheed Walker for this play, but it's an RPO and he's just supposed to be run blocking. It's on Love to get the ball out fast enough, in which Romo thought he did, and the broadcast just never showed a replay. Regardless, the Packers are not able to overcome the penalty and they end up kicking a field goal. The second red zone trip came to an end with a field goal to end the half, so this is kind of excused. But Matt LaFleur chose to run the ball with a 2nd and 7 with 59 seconds left in the half. This just went for 1 yard. It's just a very dumb play call in my opinion. Love has been dealing so far at this point in the game. Let him cook and let's score a touchdown. Nope. They run the ball, essentially settling for 3. The offense was able to open up the second half with a few chunk plays, including the Josh Jacobs long run, extending the lead to 9. They got the ball back after a Denver 3-and-out and had the chance to put the game away. They took a shot, and the ball is picked off by the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain, and Christian Watson also got injured on this play. There was a lot of hate online for this play call, but I have absolutely zero issue with it. The Packers have not been able to put teams away under Matt LaFleur. So here, they went for the kill shot, and it was a slightly underthrown ball that got picked off. It wasn't even that bad of a throw, but the all-pro corner was able to make a great play on it. Following this, the offense was not good, but I'm not really going to blame Love for it either. He made a bad throw on the second interception, but he had pressure in his face pretty much every single play after Zach Tom went down. The offense basically stood no chance with the Broncos pass rush after that. It's hard to play from behind against a defense like the Broncos. The combination of no Tom and no Watson made everything extremely more difficult. Love was absolutely dealing before these injuries, and these weren't even the worst parts of the nightmare day for the Packers. Let's talk about the defense. These guys are wildly inconsistent. I think streaky might even be a better word. They opened the game by forcing a turnover and then followed it up by forcing a 3-and-out, a dominant start with the possibility of the offense taking a big lead. The Broncos had 2 more possessions in the first half, both resulting in touchdowns. Those drives combined for 16 plays and 142 yards. This just doesn't really happen to elite defenses. I will say that Javon Bullard got called for a bogus unnecessary roughness on the first drive too. So instead of a 2nd and 11 after a holding penalty on first down, it's an automatic first down for the Broncos at their 44-yard line. Speaking of that holding penalty, it was the first holding call Micah Parsons drew since week 3, even though he gets held on pretty much every single pass rush snap. In the second half, the defense forces a 3-and-out after the long touchdown run, but then gives up 3 straight touchdowns themselves. That makes 5 touchdowns and a stretch of 6 real drives. Denver was 4 for 4 in the red zone. Absolutely inexcusable for a defense that was supposed to be near the top of the league. Though, to their credit, They forced 2 4-and-outs late in the game to give the Packers offense a couple more chances. Again, I think streaky is the perfect word to describe them. I said I wouldn't complain about Keyshawn Nixon for the remainder of the regular season, but for all intents and purposes, this season is over. So I am back to criticizing him. He was very bad once again on Sunday. He's just not good in coverage, and he got cooked all evening. It's just that simple. Now, Carrington Valentine isn't much better. These corners are just not good enough to hold their own without the pass rush, and we'll be getting to that in a moment. Now, when these defensive backs do get the opportunities for interceptions, they drop them. Xavier McKinney had at least 2 dropped picks, and if he catches either of them, a certain someone is still playing next week. Though that was a freak accident, so I'm not holding McKinney to it. I think they had a couple more opportunities for interceptions too, I just can't think of them at the moment. Finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Micah Parsons has torn his ACL and will miss the rest of the season. This is an extremely devastating blow to an already inconsistent defense and a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Brian Gutekunst chose to push his chips to the middle, and he traded 2 first-round picks for the superstar. The goal was evident: win the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, I do not see this happening without Micah Parsons on the field. He was by far the best defensive player on the team, and most of the success in the pass defense game came from his sacks or pressures. Micah's leading the NFL in pass rush wins with 66. Carl Brooks, Rashawn Gary, Kingsley Enagbare, Devontae Wyatt, and Lucas Van Ness have combined for 67 pass rush wins. This is just an insurmountable loss. Like I said before, these corners are just not good enough to win on their own. They need the pass rush, and the Packers pretty much lost all of it with this injury. In my preseason predictions, I had the Packers going a somewhat conservative 12-5. But before the Parsons trade, it was much closer to 10 or 11 wins. I would not have expected them to win the Super Bowl, and nothing I've seen this season will change that in my opinion. Because of this Micah Parsons injury, I think the entire team needs an identity change, despite it being so late in the season. I think you have to expect this defense to give up over 24 or so points per game now. So first, the defense needs to be more aggressive by blitzing, creating more pressure, playing man coverage, and just let McKinney go and try to make plays. You're going to get scored on anyway, so you might as well take some chances. The offense also needs an identity change. You have to accept the fact that you're going to be playing in shootouts. Let Jordan Love throw the ball and throw it deep. Keep going to Christian Watson downfield. Let Matthew Golden play more. He looked good this past week. I get you need to run the ball, but don't chew the clock and keep the number of possessions low. And continue to stay aggressive on 4th down. I don't think the defense will come up with enough stops, so it is extremely important that the offense scores touchdowns. I mean, the defense didn't even really get stops in this game when Micah Parsons was healthy. Let's briefly talk about the special teams. Don't look now, but Brandon McManus has made 20 straight kicks after returning from injury in Week 12. He's the lone bright spot on the special teams, though. The punting from Whelan has regressed lately. Their punt and kick returners provide nothing to the team. And look, Emmanuel Wilson plays hard, but he has no vision and almost no elusiveness. I don't really see what the team sees in him. But it doesn't even matter who the returner is because the penalties on these plays will back them up regardless. I swear anytime the Packers return a kick or a punt, or even on punt coverage, there's a penalty. What does Rich Bisaccia do for this unit? I want to talk a little bit about Matt LaFleur too. I've been very critical of him, but he's been better in the past few weeks. And he was alright in this game, but there are just some small errors that have such a large impact on the game. Early in the game, he called a pitch to Jacobs on 3rd and 1. This resulted in a loss of 2 yards, and they ended up settling for a field goal. LaFleur got lucky on the pitch call on 3rd and 2 last week, which is a major credit to Josh Jacobs, but not this week. Both plays did not stand a chance. Again, Jacobs is a between the tackles runner, and they need to be better on 3rd and 1 in general. I get Jordan Love has dealt with a shoulder injury, but just about every other team in the league would sneak the ball or run a tush push. These should be gimmies, but it seems like the Packers struggle to convert. I briefly mentioned the run call in the 2-minute drill. I do not understand why Matt LaFleur is so conservative so often. You need to score touchdowns to win against these high-quality opponents. And this isn't the first time it's happened this season either, so he's obviously not learning from it. It's just frustrating to watch. Moving away from the play calling, Matt LaFleur had another boneheaded challenge this week. It looked pretty obvious that Sutton secured the catch. Instead, LaFleur makes another stupid challenge and he loses a timeout. This left them with 1 timeout in a game where the Packers were down 1 point with the Broncos driving. Again, these are all small things, but they add up over the course of an entire game. The only other specific thing I want to mention about this game is that there were just too many penalties. This team has to have better discipline. It kills you on both sides of the ball, and I think this is just a coaching issue, and it needs to be fixed heading into the playoffs. Packers get the Bears next week, and I really think if Micah was healthy that Hafley would have a great game plan to stop Caleb from scrambling, and it would be a lot less stressful than the last game. Unfortunately, he's not, so the DC might need to get creative. I'm still not convinced the Bears are part of the elite of the NFC, so I do have faith with or without Micah Parsons. Another thing to note is that there are multiple scenarios where the Packers and Bears actually have to play a third time in the wildcard round of the playoffs. This game is likely for the division and home field advantage in that game, so it makes it that much more important. And to end this video, I do want to say it's hard for me to get overly excited about the playoffs right now. I briefly felt this way after the loss of Tucker Kraft, but thankfully Watson returned and provided a jolt to the offense, and now Jaden Reed is back too. But this is a lot worse than that initial feeling. As mentioned before, Micah is just so important to this defense. Obviously, everybody's going to be looking forward to next year, and I will too, but it's just sad knowing that the team is never the same year over year. Teams lose pieces, sometimes big ones, sometimes fan favorites, but the league and life goes on. I imagine I'll talk more about this in my postseason review, so I'm going to leave it for that, and instead just focus on the present. The Packers can get into the playoffs, and anything could happen. Just find a way and be opportunistic. I think the offense has the firepower to make a run. You just need to execute and make splash plays on defense. Let's start with a win at Soldier Field and go on a run for Micah and Tucker.